Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're journeying back in time to witness the dramatic collapse of one of the ancient world's most formidable powers, the Achaemenid Persian Empire. This wasn't a sudden event, but a slow burn, a story of internal decay, political intrigue, and the rise of a military genius who would change the world forever. The seeds of decline were sown long before Alexander the Great appeared on the scene. After the glorious reigns of Cyrus the Great and Darius I, the empire began to face internal struggles. The sheer size of the empire, stretching from the Balkans to the Indus Valley, was both its greatest strength and its ultimate weakness. Managing such a vast and diverse territory was a monumental task. Successive kings, like Xerxes, often lacked the administrative skill and vision of their predecessors. Instead of focusing on unity and infrastructure, many became consumed by court politics, luxury, and paranoia. This led to a series of weak rulers who were more interested in maintaining their personal power than the stability of the empire. The court was a hotbed of conspiracy, with assassinations and backstabbing becoming increasingly common. This instability at the very top created a ripple effect of uncertainty throughout the provinces. Another major issue was the system of satrapies. Initially, these provinces, ruled by governors called satraps, were an efficient way to manage the empire. However, over time, many satraps became incredibly powerful and wealthy in their own right. They began to act more like independent kings than loyal subjects, often raising their own armies and even rebelling against the central authority of the great king. These constant internal rebellions drained the empire's resources, both in terms of manpower and treasure. The empire was constantly putting out fires within its own borders, which weakened its ability to face external threats. Furthermore, the Persian military, once the most feared fighting force in the world, had started to stagnate. While still massive in number, it relied heavily on levies from all over the empire, resulting in a lack of standardized training, equipment, and cohesion. Their tactics, which had been so effective a century earlier, had not evolved significantly. They were about to face an army that was the complete opposite: disciplined, professional, and led by a tactical mastermind. Enter Philip II of Macedon, while Persia was dealing with its internal strife. Philip was busy in the north, transforming Macedonia from a backwater kingdom into a military powerhouse. He reformed the Macedonian army, creating the formidable phalanx armed with the sarissa, a super-long pike. He professionalized his soldiers and perfected the use of combined arms tactics, integrating infantry, cavalry, and siege engines like never before. Philip's dream was to lead a unified Greek army to invade and liberate the Greek cities of Asia Minor from Persian rule, and perhaps to avenge the Persian invasions of Greece a century and a half earlier. However, Philip was assassinated in 336 BC, and his grand plan fell to his 20-year-old son, a young man named Alexander. The Persian king at the time, Darius III, likely underestimated this young upstart. He couldn't have known that he was facing not just a new king, but one of the greatest military commanders in all of history. In 330 for BC, Alexander crossed the Hellespont into Asia with a relatively small but elite army of Macedonians and Greek allies. The first major clash was the Battle of the Granicus River. The local Persian satraps, confident in their numbers and their cavalry, decided to confront Alexander directly. It was a disaster for them. Alexander led a daring cavalry charge across the river, shattering the Persian line. This victory opened up all of Asia Minor to him. Darius III realized he had a serious problem. He gathered a massive imperial army and marched to face Alexander himself. They met at the Battle of Issus in 333 BC. Despite being heavily outnumbered, Alexander's tactical brilliance won the day. He identified a weak point in the Persian line and led his elite companion cavalry in a decisive charge straight towards Darius. Panicked, Darius III fled the battlefield, leaving behind his army, his camp, and even his own family, his mother, wife, and daughters who were captured by Alexander. The flight of the king was a devastating blow to Persian morale. An army, no matter how large, is nothing without its leader. After Issus, Alexander didn't immediately chase Darius. Instead, he systematically secured the Mediterranean coast, capturing the vital naval bases of Phoenicia, including the famously difficult siege of Tyre. This was a strategic masterstroke, as it neutralized the powerful Persian navy and secured his supply lines. He then marched into Egypt, where he was welcomed as a liberator and proclaimed pharaoh. Finally, the stage was set for the ultimate showdown. In 331 BC, on the plains of Gaugamela, near modern-day Mosul in Iraq, the two armies met for the last time. Darius had gathered the full might of his empire, an immense force with troops from every corner of his realm, including fearsome Scythed chariots and even war elephants. He had chosen the battlefield carefully a wide, flat plain to take full advantage of his numerical superiority. But once again, Alexander outthought him. He advanced with his line at an angle, drawing the Persian cavalry on the left flank out wider and wider, creating a gap in their line. Just as at Issus, Alexander seized the moment, leading a wedge-shaped charge directly through that gap, aiming once again for Darius. And once again, Darius panicked and fled. His flight signaled the end. The Persian army, leaderless and broken, disintegrated. The battle was a complete and total victory for Alexander. With the Persian field army destroyed, the heart of the empire was defenseless. Alexander marched on and captured the great cities of Babylon, Susa, and the ceremonial capital, Persepolis. The immense wealth of the Persian treasury, accumulated over centuries, now belonged to him. In a controversial act, he allowed his troops to loot Persepolis before burning the grand palace complex to the ground, a symbolic act of revenge for the burning of Athens by Xerxes. Darius III, now a king without an empire, was a fugitive in his own land. He fled east, hoping to raise a new army, but his own nobles had lost faith in him. He was betrayed and murdered by one of his own satraps, Bessus. When Alexander found Darius's body, he reportedly gave him a royal burial. The death of Darius III marked the official end of the Achaemenid Persian Empire. In just a few short years, Alexander the Great had dismantled a superpower that had dominated the known world for over 2 centuries. The fall was a result of a perfect storm, deep-seated internal rot, political instability, and military stagnation within Persia, colliding with the unstoppable force of a unified, modernized army led by a once-in-a-generation military genius. The legacy of this collapse was profound. It didn't just end an empire, it ushered in a new era, the Hellenistic age, where Greek culture, language, and ideas spread across the vast territories that were once Persia, creating a fusion of civilizations that would shape the world for centuries to come. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this journey into ancient history fascinating, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. See you next time.